Okay, so when I was recording Module 9 lecture, the audio cut out. What I'm going to do now is watch the portion where the audio did not get recorded, and I am going to try and recreate what I said. It might be interesting. Let's see how it works. So I was discussing chair structures, and I pointed out there should be no horizontal lines in a chair, because if you look at the chair structure itself, when you have that model, if it sits on the table in front of you, or as in the picture on the screen, there is nothing that's really pointed directly horizontally. Everything is either straight up and down, or there are things that are angled up or angled down. But there's nothing that goes straight horizontal. So when you draw your chairs, you don't want any horizontal lines in them. And now I have no idea what I was talking about during this portion because it's going on for a while. Maybe someone asked a question. Maybe you can ponder. Alright. So now I talked about just my method for drawing the chair. And there are two kinds of chairs. There are chairs that lean left, and there are chairs that lean to the right. Most people end up preferring one or the other. I personally prefer drawing chairs that lean to the right. You may personally prefer drawing chairs that lean to the left. It's helpful to learn how to do both. So when I draw a chair, I usually draw it without lifting my pencil. I draw it in one continuous sweep. One line, two lines, three lines. I want to make sure those first and third lines are not parallel to each other. This attempt wasn't the greatest, but you can see the two ends are basically parallel. The two lines in the middle are basically parallel. And then that third set of lines are more or less parallel. You want to just practice drawing chairs. Draw them, critique them. If I draw the chair that leans to the left, there I actually lift my pencil a bunch. I draw most of my lines independently, lift my pencil in between each two lines. So that's how I draw a left-leaning chair. Your method may differ. Practice. Show me what they look like. I'll be happy to critique them. They don't need to be perfect, but you want to, as best you can, try and keep the two ends parallel, the two lines in the middle parallel, and the other two lines parallel to each other. So three separate sets of parallel lines, and then the fourth set would be the ones that go straight up and down, what we call the axial substituents. So this was a slide where I just drew a bunch of chairs. Now I think I started talking about how to tell when your axial substituent goes up or down. So you'll notice where I just drew the red dot, that carbon atom. The two lines, the two bonds that are part of the ring that come together to make it, they come together and make a point that goes upward. That tells me on that carbon, the axial substituent go up, and the equatorial substituent has to go down at an angle. And when I look, it's got to be parallel to the two lines that are not currently present there. So it has to be parallel to those other two lines I drew in red. The axial substituent would go straight up. And then if you get really fancy, you know that blue axial substituent should be in front of the bond behind it, so you can erase the bond behind it and then draw a little break to show that the axial substituent is in front. That's really like chair drawing 2.0. When you get fancy and draw the little break. So I think right now I was, again, talking about how to tell when your axial substituent goes up or down, when your equatorial substituent goes up or down. And if you look at these chair structures, you'll notice anytime the two carbon-carbon bonds in the ring come together and make a point that goes upward, like the two that I'm highlighting right now, they come together and make a point that goes up. So that tells you the axial substituent there is up. And so the equatorial substituent there should be angled down. Notice also the axial substituents alternate. If it's up on one carbon, it's down on the next, up on the next. So there, the two bonds that I just highlighted, they make a point that goes down. So the axial substituent on that carbon is going to go down. I will say, watching this myself, I understand why some of you like to watch it at double speed or 1.5 speed. Maybe that's what I should be doing. Oh. Well, there I guess I was just demonstrating again, when you have the two carbons that make a point going downward, the axial substituent goes straight down from that carbon. And if I'm drawing the equatorial substituent, notice the one set of parallel lines that isn't currently represented at this vertex is the two that I just put in blue. So when I draw my equatorial substituent, since the axial is down, the equatorial should be angled up, and it should be parallel to those two blue ones. So there you go. Here, I guess I was just highlighting my 4 sets of parallel lines again. This orange one, the green one, the blue one, and the red one. So at each vertex, all 4 are represented. You won't always see all 4 because a lot of times we leave the hydrogens just as implied, and so they don't show up. But when we do need to draw in the substituents, that's how we draw them in. All right, let's talk about some common mistakes people make when they draw chairs. All right, there I drew a chair, not necessarily the greatest chair, but an acceptable chair, until I drew this substituent here. This axial substituent on that carbon should go up, but instead I drew it going straight down. That's inaccurate. Here, I drew another chair, and I think I'm going to draw an incorrect equatorial substituent now. So right here at this carbon, the two bonds in the ring come together to make a point that goes up. So I know the axial substituent should go up. So I know my equatorial substituent should go down at an angle. I drew it down and to the right. What's wrong with that? Well, it should be parallel to these two lines at the ends, that one and that one. And that means it should go down and to the left, not down and to the right. So people will often draw their axial substituents wrong way, up versus down, or their equatorial substituents wrong way, left versus right. Try not to make those errors. Here is what I would call a bow tie chair. These two ends have been made vertical. The middle kind of comes together and pinches. Bow tie chair is a bad idea. Probably the last one I'm going to draw now would be something with a horizontal substituent. I don't quite remember. But if I had to guess, that's what I would probably draw. Oh, when I did. So, you don't want to draw horizontal substituents because everything should either go up or down. And horizontal is not up or down. There are others. You'll practice them on the skill builder. Or practice spotting them on the skill builder. Don't practice the errors. Practice spotting the errors. Getting rid of them. Let's see. How much more time do we have here? Probably a couple minutes. I don't know what I was talking about right now. Someone probably had a question. That went on for a long time. A long time. A very long time. Maybe that's the end. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And I will finish the lecture soon. See you in class.